Willie Woodchuck. It's a Sunny book by Marion E. Holt, illustrated by Patricia Schreier. Okay, this was made back in 1968. Willie Woodchuck. Willie Woodchuck, said Willie's mother one day, you're now old enough to go and build your own home. Dig a deep hole in a nice long tunnel under the ground, and Willie dear, be sure to have a front door and a back door. Isn't that rather silly? Asked Willie. After all, I'm only one woodchuck, so why have two doors? To have two doors, said his wise mother, is very, very important. For if someone tries to come in one door, you can always hurry out the other and get safely away from him. The next day, Willie Woodchuck started to work on his very own home. He dug down into the ground with his sharp little claws, and then with his fat little nose pushed loose dirt away. Then, when the hole was deep enough, he started in digging out his living room, then his bedroom, and his kitchen. By the time he had finished the kitchen, Willie was tired, a tired little woodchuck, and he went up into the sunshine to sit down and rest. While he sat there, he began to think of how nice it would be if he could have a front door that would be more beautiful than the front door of any other woodchuck house in the whole world. He thought and he thought about that front door. That night he even dreamed about it, and the next day he started to work on it. For many days, Willie was a very busy woodchuck, carrying little sticks and piling loose dirt here and there to make a doorway. At least it was finished, and Willie stood back and looked at it with a great deal of pride. It's certainly pretty, said Willie, but still it isn't exactly beautiful. And then he had a happy thought. He planted a tall stalk of lovely yellow goldenrod on one side of the door, and on the other a gorgeous purple thistle. This time when Willie stood back and looked at the door, he just clapped his paw together in delight. It's more than just beautiful, he cried happily. It's wonderful. It's scrumptious. The little woodchuck hurried off to find his mother. Just wait until she sees my front door, he said, and he sang a little woodchuck song as he waddled along. I'm a happy little woodchuck with a beautiful front door. I could any little woodchuck wish for anything more. Willie's mother heard the song and came out to greet him. When Mother Woodchuck saw Willie's front door, she smiled at him and said, It's lovely, Willie, just beautiful, and I'm very proud of you, but it does worry me to think that you have no back door. You really had better build one right away, even if it isn't such a pretty one. Don't be such an old fuss budget, Mother, said Willie. One door is plenty for me, so just stop worrying. Mrs. Woodchuck shook her head sadly and hurried back to her own home that had two doors. Willie sat down between the thistle and the goldenrod and sighed with deep content. Suddenly he was startled by the loud barking of a dog. He jumped up and saw a great big brown and white dog bounding over the field toward him. With one leap, Willie went through his front door and scurrying down the tunnel into his living room. The barking came nearer, and then he heard a fearful scratching sound. Dirt began to roll down into his living room, and Willie went back into his bedroom. The scratching came nearer, and the dirt came into his bedroom. Back he crept until he was at the very end of his kitchen, and that was as far as he could go. There was no back door for poor little Willie to use. The little woodchuck put his little brown nose down onto his paw and shivered with fear. Oh, how he wished he had done as his mother had told him to do. Now he knew why a back door was important. A little woodchuck tear slid down his cheek, and then another tear followed. He was alone and so frightened. Suddenly, Willie heard a whistle, and the awful scratching noise stopped. He perked up his ears and listened as hard as he could. He heard a man's voice say, Come along, fellow, and stop that digging. Willie peeked cautiously up out of the hole and saw the hunter man and his dog away off in the distance. Only then did he dare creep out of the hole and look around. His beautiful front door was ruined. It was completely wrecked and scattered all over. The lovely goldenrod and the gorgeous purple thistle was broken and torn. However, Willie was so happy to be alive that he didn't waste any time crying. He started right back to work, only this time he started on a back door. The next time Mrs. Woodchuck came to visit her son, she found he had two doors, a very, very pretty front door and a nice, neat little back door. She smiled happily at Willie while he sang her a new song. I'm a happy little woodchuck and no longer am afraid, for I have a dandy front door and a back one too I've made. Thanks for listening. If you like what you heard, please click like and subscribe.